Writing is thinking. It's such a simple phrase, but honestly, when you really sit with it, it's pretty profound. Before we officially kick things off today, I want you to just hold on to that idea, because today we're diving into the mind of someone who doesn't just sit back and let life happen to them. No, they write it down, they break it apart, and they analyze literally every single variable.
Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. We are unpacking a genuinely fascinating case study on what actually happens when you treat your everyday life like an iterative software project. We're going to be examining an author named Ang, specifically looking at his interweb review, Health and Project Progress for week 27. And what's just incredible about this source material is the sheer level of intentionality behind it. Ang isn't just living day to day, he is optimizing, he's debugging, and he's actively deploying updates to his own life.
Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. First up, we'll look at the weekly review system itself. Second, tracking health and wellness. Third, adapting to physical setbacks. Fourth, we'll get into AI, coding, and projects. And finally, number 5, the analog hobby balance.
Section 1, the weekly review system. Basically, how to do a personal audit.
So Ang's post from July 5th, 2026 acts as our foundational baseline here. He calls this process his TWIR, This Week in Review. By highly compartmentalizing his life into distinct tags and categories, Ang sets this concrete baseline for both his physical and intellectual growth. You know, when you track things week by week, you aren't getting overwhelmed by the massive scoop of an entire year. You just have this manageable 7-day sprint to review your data, figure out what happened, and adjust your behaviors.
Section 2, tracking health and wellness, or what we can call tracking the hardware.
If you think of your body as the actual hardware running your life's software, Ang notes that proactive health is what builds the resilience you need for all your personal and professional goals. Take the number 7.7. That is Ang's exact average hours of daily sleep for this specific week. But he doesn't just log that number and move on. He analyzes the why. He realized his sleep was a bit fragmented and figured it was likely due to a dietary change involving eating daily pumpkin seeds combined with a high level of physical activity. And despite dealing with a relapsed back and knee injury, he managed the sleep disruption by using a heat pad right before bed. He identified a bug in his sleep cycle and literally applied a patch.
Next metric, 5,887. That is his average daily step count. And this shows you exactly what intentional, hyper-specific tracking looks like in the real world. He actually aims for varying step tiers like 4,500, 6,000, or 8,000 steps, and then he measures his precise output against them. This isn't just estimating, this is tracking your personal metrics so you know exactly where your energy is being spent.
Listen to how Ang demystifies his nutrition using these personalized dietary codes. We've got the 211 or 221 diet and 16:8/52 fasting. So what does that actually mean? Well, the 211 or 221 just refers to his exact ratios of plants to protein to carbs. The fasting numbers refer to his specific time windows. And by sticking to these codes, Ang successfully maintains a hyper-specific target body weight of 69.96 kilograms. To put that in perspective, he even notes that when he eats a high-carb meal out at a restaurant, he deliberately balances the equation later by eating boiled or raw vegetables just to fix his ratio.
So, at the end of tracking all this health data, Ang extracts some really concrete action items. Moving forward, he's going to proceed with his supplements, he plans to time his dinners properly to keep his circadian rhythm in check, and he's going to stick to that 2-2-1 diet by prioritizing his own home-cooked food. These are just incredibly practical takeaways for anyone who is trying to maintain their biological clock.
Moving to Section 3, adapting to physical setbacks.
Even the best hardware has glitches, right? The crucial point here is exactly how Ang handles his flare-ups. He doesn't panic. He just uses a systematic step-by-step approach. Step 1, he acknowledges the relapsed knee and back injuries. Step 2, he applies his heat pad treatment, noting that it provides instant relief. Step 3, he carefully resumes his strength recovery training. It's a total iterative process of recovery. He's treating an injury not as some massive failure, but just as a temporary condition that requires active management.
And his action items here are honestly so relatable. He's planning to buy some exercise equipment, revisit his swimming routine, which he actually admits he keeps forgetting to do, and crucially, avoid overexerting himself during gardening chores. He knows that he carried some heavy things in the garden and actually worsened his injury. It just goes to show that even the most highly optimized people can accidentally throw out their back hauling dirt. It's a great reminder for all of us to start small and incrementally push ourselves rather than trying to do it all at once.
Section 4, AI, coding, and projects.
Time to update the software.
Transitioning from the hardware to the software, we get to shift into Eng's deep intellectual pursuits. This is where he focuses on building his skills. And this brilliantly illustrates our opening hook. Writing is thinking. Finding a unique voice in the age of AI is really tough. But Eng uses AI tools, specifically NotebookLM, not to do the writing for him, but as a kind of interactive reflection notebook. He churns out his thoughts, feeds them into the system, and then uses the generated discussions to prompt even deeper personal discoveries. He is essentially augmenting his intellect, not outsourcing it.
This perfectly captures Eng's fascinating philosophical theory on where open-source coding is headed. He predicts this massive divide on GitHub. On one side, you'll have core projects, things like compilers and frameworks, which are going to require much stricter rules on AI-generated code. But on the other side, you'll have app projects. He argues that instead of developers contributing updates upstream to these apps, they'll just fork the apps and use AI to completely customize the software for their own personal use. It really makes you wonder, how are you personally navigating this massive technological shift in how we build tools?
Eng translates those big tech philosophies into actionable weekly goals. For example, he plans to update continuous integration for his Elixir and Erlang dependencies. But more importantly, for his personal Haskell projects, he is actively leveraging AI to resolve features that have literally been pending for months. And his strategy for doing this? Keep the atomic changes small. He lets the AI help, but only in these tiny bite-sized pieces so he can truly understand how the feature works. He's completely prioritizing his own human comprehension over just getting the code written fast.
Section 5. The Analog Hobby Balance.
Highly technical, structured individuals absolutely require grounding analog activities to truly achieve balance in their lives. The contrast here is just fantastic. On one hand, you have Ong mapping out the complex future of AI in open-source repositories. And on the other hand, he's battling a massive algae bloom in his fish tank. He's dealing with heavy downpours messing up his garden plans, and he's putting off installing curtains and fixing tile grout. It is such a wonderful reminder that no matter how incredibly advanced our digital lives get, the messy, totally mundane, physical world is always right there, keeping us grounded.
Let's see how this all builds into his final set of actions. Eng applies the exact same iterative, structured approach to his living room as he does to his code base. He has a precise plan to germinate seeds for a plant rack. He has hardware updates planned for his fish, specifically new LED lights and sponge filters. And his home improvement goal is just brilliantly simple. Declutter one item per day. Small, atomic, iterative changes applied directly to his physical space.
So we've seen how Eng tracks his sleep to the exact decimal, monitors his precise dietary ratios, and plans atomic updates for both his software and his fish tanks. Which leaves me with a question for you. If you sat down and reviewed your week right now, what metrics would define you? Are you tracking the things that actually matter? Maybe it's time to start treating your own life a little bit more like an iterative project. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep iterating, and I will catch you on the next one.